Hi folks, this is All the Fruit, and today I'll show you how to do some serious spring fruit foraging. I'm in Heidelberg, Germany. Yep, towards the end of March. As you can see, it's quite warm. People are out, some of them already with shorts. Yeah, it hasn't been warm for a long time because the vegetation hasn't developed very far. And if you want to forage here, you can find a lot of leaves and flowers and even spring and even winter roots and bulbs and tubers. But if you want fruit, this year it's a little bit tough because the winter was a little bit harsher, up to minus 12 degrees outside of the city and probably minus 8 degrees inside of the city. So in this largish park here, I guess it would be probably around minus 10 degrees. So not a lot of fruit around here. Oh, but cute doggies. So what can you eat in spring? Well, in our mildish climate, even after such a harsh winter, you can find a couple of fruit, but basically there is not much you can eat in huge amounts. Basically, if you are lucky, you can find some apples which survived from last year. If you are lucky, you can find some hawthorn. But what you will find pretty much always, even after a harsh winter, are the rose hips. I made a couple rose hip videos and noticed I have made them all in summer. Because in the last years, the rose hips ripened very early. And so, yeah, you could basically eat them in summer, but you don't need to eat them in summer. Also, you don't really need to eat them in early autumn because this is basically the fruit season in Central Europe, and you can eat a lot of other fruit which are easier to pick and bigger. But the rose hips, where they shine, is in late autumn, in winter, and in early spring. And actually, the winters were so mild in last years, and the summers were so dry that you could basically harvest rose hips well into the summer. Actually, I made a video where I harvest last year's rose hips and this year's rose hips at the same time, because last year's rose hips were still good while the new ones were already ripe. But basically where their shine is here, winter and early spring. Most of them are force ripened by the frost, and that's when you can eat them. Be careful with rose hips. Around the seeds there is an itching powder. The seeds are in a cluster in the center of the fruit or of the rose hip. So if you manage to squeeze out the flesh, which is at the periphery, the cluster with the seeds and with the itchy hairs, which are really, well, you can use them as itching powder. You can dry rose hips and then throw them into your friends' stuff them into your friends' clothes and they will be itchy for days. But even if you eat them, your mouth and throat will be itchy. So be careful. Eat this tasty pulp, but don't eat the seeds with the itchy hairs around them. It's basically like eating a cactus. Well, oh, look at that. Here you can see look on my middle finger. I basically squeezed the cluster with the seeds and the hairs, and now there are hairs stuck in the rose flesh. Can you see them, how they shine? Like little whitish, goldenish hairs. Well, they are very pretty. Here you can also see a couple on the rose hips. They are very pretty, but they're also very, very spiny. Well, but the flesh of the rose hips is actually amazing. It contains more vitamin C than the famous acerola fruit. Actually, there is only one fruit in the world containing more vitamin C than rose hips, and it's not acerola, but I always forget the name. So this is the second most vitamin C rich fruit in the world, and you can find it basically throughout the temperate areas, throughout Europe, North America, China. Well, enough talk, let's eat. Tasty. Mostly sour, but a very pleasant sourness. Also sweet, and with this unmistakable rosehip flavor. In my native country, Bulgaria, we make rosehip jam. It's a lot of work, and of course you'll end up with a lot of hairs in the rosehip jam. But despite the fact that we have tons of other fruit which are bigger and sweeter and easier to process, we still make it because it's so tasty and so healthy. Well, the problem is you will not be able to get most of the flesh from the rose hips if you are afraid of the spiny hairs. So what you can do instead of eating them raw, you can of course make jams from them. You can make teas from them. This itching powder is such a pity. Yeah, trying to eat around it, well, those itching glockets are such a pity. I'm sure this would be a very popular fruit if we manage to breathe out the glockets. Can somebody please do this? Can you breed a rose hip variety where the whole fruit is edible? I mean, you don't even need the seeds if we propagate them by cuttings or by grafting. And most, actually all modern rose varieties are propagated by grafting, or I think some by cuttings. Well, please folks, breed a variety of roses which have rose hips without glockets. I think then they will become a very popular fruit, and the sale of vitamin C supplements will go down drastically, because if you can pop a couple tasty rose hips instead of pills, who will not want to do this? So folks, this was the rose hip in spring now, at the time when it shines as the main fruit in large parts of continental Europe and other temperate areas. Stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the beautiful city of Heidelberg, which will hopefully soon have a lot more fruits. And don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe.